Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Sally Buemi, the third selectman here in North Haven. I've been serving as the third selectman for about 12 years now. And welcome to my show, Speaking Freely with Sally. I don't know if you saw my program last month, but the purpose of this show is to highlight some great things that are happening in North Haven, either some unique businesses or great nonprofits. It's my goal to let you know that there's a lot of great people doing wonderful things to make our community a better place. And I am so excited about my guest tonight. It is Animal Haven, and as a native North Havener, Animal Haven is very dear to my heart. It's been around since I was a kid. I believe they just celebrated their 75th anniversary, and I'm so happy and pleased to have with me tonight Miriam Bowden, who is the shelter manager. Thank you for coming.
It's a pleasure to be here.
Wonderful. So I was wondering if you could just tell the folks a little bit about your position at Animal Haven and maybe a little bit about your background.
Of course. So basically, as a shelter manager, I oversee all the operations at the Animal Haven. So, everything from the medical care of the cats and the dogs who we're going to take in, transports, all the employees, all, again, the daily operations. So it's
okay.
Very exciting position. Before that, I was a stay-at-home mom for 2 years. And then previously to that, I was in Montreal. I was the vice president of an animal rescue who took in heavy medical cases. So I have a lot of experience. I've been in the animal field. I was also a vet assistant. So I've been in the animal field for 9 years now. I'm very excited to be at the Animal Haven. I think we have a great place going.
Well, that's great. You certainly have a fantastic background and certainly have a passion for animals. Animal Haven, of course, is located right on Mill Road here in North Haven. Could you tell us a little bit about the mission statement, the purpose that drives you and your coworkers at Animal Haven?
Yes, so we take in mostly animals from private surrenders or other, animal control to rehome them to loving families. So we provide all the medical care for them, and we keep them at the shelter for as long as they need before getting adopted.
Okay, and now you have just cats and dogs, right?
Yes, we do very often receive, demands for bunnies or birds. We partner with other organization, Connecticut, to transfer them if we do. We don't like to leave people hanging. If, people reach out to us, whether, it doesn't matter what type of animal, we always try to help. We just don't keep them at the shelter.
Well, that's great that you have that network in case another type of animal should come your way. Now, how many cats and dogs do you currently have at the shelter?
So we currently have 87 cats and 20 dogs.
Wow, that is an incredible amount of cats. I love all animals. I mean, everything. But I am known in my family and amongst my friends as a cat person. So, in fact, you and your assistant, Emily, gave me a fantastic tour of the shelter the other day, and I was in my glory with all of those cats everywhere. Can you tell me what a typical day might be? Does that exist?
So we don't really have a typical day. I think that's what why I like the job so much is you never really know what you're gonna walk into. Because as you know, animals are live beings, so sometimes they have medical emergencies. So some days we're gonna have to bring them to the vet. We also have once a week we have Dr. Janicki from Guilford Animal Medical Center who comes to us to help us with the exams at the shelter. We actually have a brand new medical room it's really great. sometimes we have to do transports to, like, if we partner sometimes with other organization, we have to do transfers, so we're going to transport them. The dogs have to be walked, the cats have to be fed, they have to be cleaned, we have to respond to surrender forms. Sometimes we have people just, showing up with animals at the shelter, so it's never, I think that's what I like the most, is that you never really know.
Wow. How long have you been the shelter manager?
So I started back in October of 2024, so it's still pretty recent.
Okay. Well, welcome to North Haven. I hope you're enjoying your experience here in town.
Yeah.
Now, you mentioned surrender. What are the various sources of the animals that you take in? I'm sure there's a variety of reasons why they would be at your shelter.
Yes, absolutely. So, our main intake is private surrenders, so directly from the owners. They fill out a surrender form on our website, and then we evaluate based on the answers if we do have the resources to take in the animal. Sometimes the reasons are very frustrating, like, I didn't know what I was getting into adopting a puppy, it's too much, to my mother has to move to memory care, she can't bring her cats, can you help? So it's
Yeah.
I do have to say, every end of the month we do have an influx in surrender forms, because people are either being evicted or they're moving and they didn't find a place with a landlord who would accept their animals. So that's kind of sad. It always happens the last week of a month.
I see. So, of course, you take in as many as you have room for, and adoption, finding them permanent homes, is certainly a top priority. So can you tell the folks at home a little bit about that adoption process? And you mentioned something about people who didn't realize what they were getting into. So in that adoption process, do you have steps to ensure that people understand the time commitment and financial commitment of a pet? So just tell us a little bit about that adoption process.
Yeah, absolutely. So we have a great adoption coordinator. Her name is Ava. And she processes the application as they come in. So we have a very thorough adoption application with vet references. So we're going to check, that these people, if they're not first-time pet owner, that they did bring in their previous pet to the vets yearly, that they were vaccinated, that they were not outdoor pets. We also ask people to provide us for 2 personal references that we also call, and then we have different questions on the application. If it's for a cat, is it going to be indoor only, indoor, outdoor, outdoor? How would you react if your cat was, clawing on your brand new couch? Not spelled out like that, but
that happens.
For what reason would you consider giving up a pet? What would you do if you had to move? And to whom do you intend to leave your pet if anything was to happen to you? Because that's always something I think that people don't really think about. And we do have a lot of surrenders because the owner, passed away and the pets don't have anywhere to go. And then after that whole application is processed, we schedule a first appointment where they can come to the shelter and visit the animals with the adoption coordinator. We try to give a portrait, I would say, that's always worse than it really is. So people kind of know what to expect, and are not surprised by, behavioral issues. We also asked about allergies. Do you have anyone in your home that has allergies? What would you do if someone was to develop an allergy? And we also try to educate people regarding pet insurance, because that's something that is, widely available right now, which was not the case, let's say, 10 years ago. And it really helps, offset the cost of owning a pet, because especially since COVID, the cost of veterinary fees, they only went up and up and up. So, we're very thorough and I think people appreciate that because then they leave with an animal and they know exactly what they're getting into. And I have to say, since I think December, we've had more than 90 adoptions and only 2 came back.
Wow. So you average 90 since December. So how many do you average about per month?
We aim to do about 30 a month.
Wow. Well, I think it's great that you take all those precautions because you don't want them coming right back.
No.
And of course, you all, by all I mean you and your coworkers, are so dedicated to these animals and have already put time and resources, either getting them better or getting them acclimated to people, that you must feel some sort of obligation to put them in a good home. So I think that the adoption process you described is appropriate. Now, how many employees do you have at Animal Haven?
So there's myself, the assistant manager. We have the adoption coordinator. We also have 1 full-time kennel assistant, and if I'm not mistaken, did I say 5 or 6 part-time kennel assistants?
Okay.
And we have a dog trainer too.
A dog trainer. Okay. Do you have any volunteers that could come in because with 87 cats alone, never mind the dogs that have to be walked and socialized, but the litter boxes is a little over. I have 1 cat and it's quite the job. Do you have volunteers to assist you at Animal Haven?
Oh yes, of course, and we love our volunteers. We have a base right now of about 50. So we have different positions for volunteering. We have cat cleaners, so they usually come in the morning and they will help the staff clean the cat rooms. So that's, changing the litter boxes, mopping the floors, changing the food, changing the water, disinfecting the surfaces. We also have cat socializers who are very important because we take, we don't only take in the friendly cats, we take all of them. So sometimes some of them needs to be socialized, and these volunteers have way more time than we do because we're always running around. And we also have dog walkers who are also very important because they make sure that the dogs are exercised properly and they get more one-on-one attention. There's also various positions, on the development committee, more like work from home type of opportunities. But, the ones I interact with the most are, of course, the ones who come to the shelter.
Okay, that's great. I again, with the immense responsibilities at your shelter, I'm sure that the volunteers are an important part of that. Now, if people are interested in volunteering, are you at capacity with volunteers, or are you always welcoming more volunteers?
Oh, we're always welcoming more. It's so helpful to have volunteers. It makes, the day run smoother. And also, volunteers don't tend to necessarily commit for as long as employees. And, any commitment that you can give, we will take. But we kind of need to have a steady base of volunteer who are going to come in weekly.
Well, at the end of the show, we're going to have a graphic up on the screen with contact information. So if there's anybody out there who is interested in volunteering, they can get the contact information and start that process. Now, you had mentioned some of the cats and dogs could be difficult when they come in. How do you deal with feral cats? You must get some feral cats. And how do you decide? You gave me a tour yesterday, excuse me, and you have a lot of different rooms for the cats. How do you decide based on the behavioral aspects of the cat before it gets acclimated to the shelter? Who goes with who? That must be a tremendous challenge, so we don't have a lot of problems.
Yes, so we do have 3 isolation rooms. It's the only rooms where the cats are in cages at the shelter. They go there for the first 2 weeks. And if you asked why 2 weeks, it's because it's when most illnesses would pop up if they had to. so we can treat them. And then in that time, we get them spayed and neutered, we get them vaccinated, dewormed, and all the good stuff to make sure that they can go to the communal cat rooms where, they will live free roaming with other cats. Now, we do get some cats that are more on the feral side. So when they are moved into a room, they will be initially in a bigger type of dog crate so that they are easily accessible for the cat socializers. So they know if a cat is in a crate in the room, it's because it needs to be socialized. We usually try to do that transition over a week or two before we release them. We also have cats who don't like other cats. So then, we have the bathroom and the offices and, everywhere we can think of to put the cats who are a bit more temperamental. And also, we have our long-term employees, like John, who's our full-time kennel assistant, knows all the cats really, really well. So usually when we have to move them into a room, we'll ask for his input of like, oh, you've seen that cat act for the last 2 weeks. Where do you think they would get along well? Like, we have some rooms that have a bit of a bully or two. So, we know that if we can put another temperamental cat in there, it might not go well.
Right. Well, just owning probably 50 cats in my lifetime, they, if you take the time to really pay attention to them, like your kennel person that you're talking about, you could really read their personalities. They just need a little patience. Now, we've been talking a bit more about cats than the dogs. Now, certainly with dogs, I would think there's also some behavioral challenges that you have to deal with. And how is it similar to the cat process?
Yeah, so for the dogs, we do an intake evaluation. So before we commit to taking in a dog, usually if they show any signs of aggression towards humans, we're not going to take them in because we're not equipped to deal safely with that. But, we test for food aggression, toy aggression, just their general temperament. Now, of course, we provide a kennel and it's a very stressful environment. So sometimes some behavioral issues that we didn't know about are going to show up later down the line. They're also, when they get to the shelter, on a 2 weeks quarantine, so that we can really see their temperament and their behaviors before we put them up for adoption. Because sometimes, again, they get to the shelter, they're really shut down, and then you don't know their real personality until, a few weeks later.
And when it finally starts to emerge,
yeah,
when they can calm down and know that they're in a safe place, they're getting fed.
Yes.
That certainly makes sense. So when a pet first comes in, whether it's a dog or a cat, you must, you've talked a little bit about illnesses, you must do fairly promptly an assessment of any diseases like feline AIDS or feline leukemia.
Yes.
Okay.
So we do always aim to, we have that 2 weeks of isolation. For sure, before they come out of that isolation, they will be tested for FIV and FELV, which are the feline leukemia and AIDS. They will be vaccinated for rabies and distemper. They will be dewormed. We also send a fecal sample to make sure that there isn't anything that wasn't covered by the dewormer that we used, and we get them spayed and neutered. So all of that is done. We strive, it's not always possible, but we try to get them seen by a vet either on the same day or within 48 hours of intake.
Well, that's great. Now, what I wanted to ask is about kittens.
Yes.
You must get a lot of kittens, and I'm sure that they are more easily adopted than adult cats, because we've stressed this is a no-kill shelter. And
Yes.
I believe you told me when we've been talking during the past week that you've got some long-term inhabitants of the shelter, which is great. I love that it's a no-kill shelter. But the kittens, you probably can adopt a little bit more easily. Now, do they get spayed and neutered before adoption as well?
So for
what-
kittens, they need to be 3 pounds in order to be able to be spayed and neutered, which is usually around 12 to 16 weeks.
Okay.
So that's when we will aim to do the spay and neuters. Now the process will vary depending on at what age they get to us. So if they get to us, they're already like 8 or 9 weeks old, and we will keep them at the shelter, get them on the same protocols as everyone else, vaccination.
Yeah.
If we get a pregnant mama or we get very teeny tiny kittens, then we prefer to place them in foster because that's way less of a stressful environment. They're not exposed to as many diseases as they could be at the shelter. So that's what we try to do. So usually if we place a litter in foster when they're really young, we say the commitment is for about 12 weeks. 12 weeks is when we would get them back to the shelter and immediately adopt them out.
Well, that's very interesting. You mentioned the foster care to me, and that's something I was not aware of. Do you have a set people that you count on for that kind of foster care for kittens? For a litter that you can trust and depend on. Because
Yes.
That's and that you'll get them back. What if they fall in love with them and don't want to give them back? That's what would happen to me.
Yes, so we do have we have a pool of fosters that we already know. We also have on the website a foster care application. And basically my motto is always, I will never place in foster an animal if I wouldn't be okay with these people adopting them. Because
Okay.
people who foster have priority over adoption. So we are maybe not as thorough, but probably similar with the foster care application and the adoption application, because we want to make sure that if they want to do what we call a foster fail, which is when the animal ends up being adopted by the foster home, that we can say yes, and that we don't have to be, you've had that animal for 10 weeks now, but no, you can't adopt.
Right. Well, it's a tough balance between your primary objective, which is the care of the animal, but you also have to take into account the people. So I think that process is certainly an appropriate way to go. Now, so people could apply on your website if they want to be a foster
Yes.
family.
Yes.
For a litter.
Yes, so it's 2 different applications. We have the volunteer application that is for everything, we spoke about earlier, and we have the specific foster care application.
Now, I'm an attorney here in North Haven. I've been an attorney for about 40 years, and I do a lot of wills and estates, and I have a lot of folks who, in their wills, will leave a specific bequest, either a specific amount of money or perhaps a percentage to Animal Haven. So I would assume, because you're nonprofit, funding has got to be an important part of because you cannot take such fantastic care as you do of these animals without resources. So I assume that getting money from people who leave a bequest in their will is one way. What other sources of funding do you have?
So there's a lot of fundraising that is done through, we have raffles a couple times a year, different fundraising that the president takes care of. We have a list of major donors who are donating either monthly or yearly. People just coming to the shelter, giving donations. We also recoup a little bit on the adoption fees, even if not, we usually lose money on the adoption fee compared to how much we spend. We are trying to get a bit more present on social media to get to another type of donor. And of course, bequests are a huge part of it. We actually have the Legacy Society, which is designed specifically for that. And, anyone is ever interested in that, I'm sure that Linda Marino, the president, would be happy to explain what it is.
Okay. And as far as folks out there who might want to help out by dropping off food or litter or blankets or towels or anything else, how does that work? Can people do that, and how do you do that?
Yes, so we do accept donations. We do ask that the food is unopened simply because we need to know, the expiration date. We have a donation bin that is outside of the shelter that people can just drop off at any time. We do also have staff at the shelter from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. if people prefer to, drop off in the lobby. But any food donation, whether it's cat food, dog food, cat trees, toys, anything is always greatly appreciated.
Okay, well, we are just about out of time, so I hope that the viewers have enjoyed your discussion of this fantastic shelter. I know how hard you work. I took, like I said, I had a tour of the facility the other day, and it's just so, it's just heartwarming to see these dedicated people working so hard to help animals that really, who knows what would happen to them if there wasn't a facility and other facilities like Animal Haven to care for them and to find them appropriate, loving homes. So I have the greatest respect for your shelter. I hope folks, after hearing about all of the challenges you face, will be enticed to get involved, make donations, or maybe volunteer, or just if people wanted a tour of the place to see if they'd be interested, would that something that they could arrange?
Yes, we also do have open houses every other week. So we alternate the Saturday and the Sunday. We post it on our social media. But we are open every other week from 1 to 3 to the public, and we have volunteers who can give private tours of the shelter.
Well, I know you're just in about your 5th month, but I'm so impressed, Miriam, with your dedication and how well you run this shelter. I hope you'll be there for years to come and helping animals that need your help. And I just have the greatest respect for you and your co-workers. So so please check out Animal Haven. The website will be showing up soon on the screen. And if any of you out there have any suggestions for me for any future Speaking Freely with Sally episodes, please feel free to contact me. My email address will also show up on the screen. So again, Miriam, thank you so much. Again, it's Animal Haven, a great facility taking care of the cats and dogs that we all love so much at 89 Mill Road here in North Haven. Thank you and good night.
Thank you for having me.
Okay.